Anybody in history ever? Charlemagne. Because that's a cool name.
I think I'd kind of like to sit down with Clint Eastwood. I think there's an interesting guy. Also, you know, he started as an actor in B movies, and not about bees, just crappy movies.
If I could break bread with anybody in the world, it would have to be Bono.
If I could break bread with anybody in this world, it'd be Eddie Vedder.
I just love him. And he's my go-to guy.
He's one of the world's great directors, very engaging, seems entertaining, seems like a man of the world. Was in politics for a while.
He just made such an impact on me in high school and in college and continues to this day. I'm lucky enough to work at a rock station that plays Pearl Jam. So Eddie's meant a lot to me, and I'd love to just sit down, have a meal with a guy, and listen to some stories.
If I can break bread with anybody, I think it would be Pete Rose. Give me an inside line.
I would break bread with Steven Seagal 20 years ago, because 20 years ago he was smoking hot.
And he was a great baseball player.
If I had the opportunity to break bread with anybody living or dead, I'd have to say Benjamin Franklin. Some of the stories that I heard about with him going to France were pretty impressive. So I wouldn't mind breaking bread with him and hearing some of his stories.
If I could break bread with anybody, it would probably be Michelle Obama. I find her to be a very strong spokesman for women's powers, and I just think she's a beautiful person, and I just think she has a lot to bring to everybody in the country.
If I could break bread with anybody, it'd be my son one more time, who I lost, because I miss him so much.
If I could break bread with one person, it wouldn't be anybody famous. It would be my grandfather, who I never really got to know. You know, he died when I was very, very young, but I've heard so many stories about his life after he had passed away. So, you know, he was there when the Hindenburg went down, and, you know, he was a Philadelphia firefighter. He was an amateur baseball player. He was a sniper for the Marines prior to World War II, and actually during World War II. So, you know, it's a shame that I didn't find out about these things until after he was gone.
I'd love to break bread with my grandmother. You know, she's been passed a few years now, and now is when you start to think of all those questions you never asked her before, and it'd be fun to just talk to her again.
Certainly I'd like to have one more family dinner with all my family that's passed away, my mother and my grandfather, along with Frank Sinatra. If he could join us, that would be great. There's a lot of good stories there, I'm sure.
On a happier note, probably one of those awesome celebrity chefs, Giada De Laurentiis, Emma Lagasse would be cool, or Gordon Ramsay. Even though he's kind of awful, you just kind of love to hate him. And I want to know what really goes on behind the scenes in that show, Hell's Kitchen.
Alive, I'd have to say Paul McCartney. I've met him before. Seemed like a pretty cool guy. I'd like to spend more time with him. Sit down, have a bite to eat, talk about the Beatles, stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty decent.
And living, I always looked up to Lee Iacocca, who turned around Chrysler, was bankruptcy. He could really probably use some help right now in the country. Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Okay, so that would be him.
This was my dream interview for the longest time. Probably not going to happen now that he's dead. But it would be Steve Jobs. I loved his mindset. I loved the fact that he went for it, that he dismissed the naysayers. You know, people who say nay. He dismissed those people. Those are the two guys. Of course, if I sat down with both of them, Steve Jobs would be the one who'd be stinking because he'd be decomposing. But I think Clint Eastwood, I'd probably face Clint Eastwood more and not embarrass Steve Jobs by looking at him. But those are the two people.